so much for joining us for Eye on New Mexico. Today I am joined by Sonia Warwick from Roadrunner Food Bank. And with Thanksgiving and the holidays just days away, we really couldn't think of a better time to talk about hunger. It's an important issue. And now while many of us will be celebrating cooking our turkeys and putting out those big holiday spreads, so many in our community will not have a Thanksgiving meal. And sadly, it's not just at Thanksgiving or during the holiday season, it's really every day. So Sonia, you sent us some pretty shocking numbers on hunger in our states.
Yes.
And I want to get to those. Take a look at this here. According to Map the Meal Gap, New Mexico is first in the nation for childhood hunger and sixth overall when it comes to hunger. Now, food insecure individuals continue to fall behind. It may not seem like a big difference, but the food budget shortfall on average each week is now $16.50, and that's up from $16.14 last year. So for a family of four, that's about $66 a week or $264 a month. So when we hear about these numbers, we know there is a problem here in our community.
Most definitely. You know, hunger figures always follow our poverty trends nationwide. And in New Mexico, we have higher poverty rates, we have higher hunger rates. And this research that is produced by Feeding America every spring is important for a lot of reasons. It looks at people who are at risk of hunger, and the cool thing is, or I should say the unique thing is it also gives us a statewide and even a county look at hunger.
Right.
So we can see, you know, what communities are very impacted by hunger, and no surprise, but rural New Mexico tends to have higher hunger rates than other places in the state.
Also, not only are we seeing this problem in those rural communities, but it seems like food just keeps getting more expensive. We have another graphic we'd like to show you here. Check this out. It appears the cost of a meal is rising. In 2014, it was $2.59. 2017, $2.79, and this year it's $2.89. So we've gone up at least 20 cents, it seems, in the last couple of years. But really, that does make a difference to those who are on a very limited budget.
Oh, most definitely. You know, when people are experiencing poverty and are low income, they don't usually have any extra to cover those basic needs that you and I, you know, have, that we typically don't worry about. So any increases to cost to them, really, they feel they feel the hardest in terms of their available budget to them.
Also, that affects large families, especially if there's more mouths to feed. I mean, there's more money that needs to be spent.
Exactly.
How do they get by?
Well, lots of different ways. They can basically rely on the federal nutrition programs. They can apply for SNAP benefits. That's a good way to combat hunger. And the other thing is that many people who are on SNAP also use the Charitable Hunger Network. And our Charitable Hunger Network across the state consists of hundreds of locations, and we obviously supply food to those locations. But what that means is they often need both. They need the federal safety net, and they also need the charitable safety net to make ends meet for the whole month long.
Let's take a look at a map right now. This is from Feeding America, and it shows areas hardest hit by food insecurity. Actually, it's not up right now, but the map does show different spots in the country with areas that are darker than others with the color green. That means they're denoting some higher rates. What's it like here in New Mexico?
Well, you tend to see, especially when you look at the child hunger rates, not just actually in the state, but across the United States. So the report is very unique in that really what it does is it looks like the overall population set for hunger and what that looks like. And then they also look at the childhood hunger figures. So when you pull up the childhood hunger figures on that map, and you go to mapthemealgap.org, what's amazing is there are more green spots across the country than when you're looking at the overall population. So what that tells us across the country and even here locally is that child hunger in our country is a very serious issue, that families are really hard hit, and their children who are in their homes are hard hit by not having enough consistent access to meals over the course of a month.
All right, so a lot of people wonder, what exactly does hunger look like here in our state? And Roadrunner did put together a video that gives us a pretty good look at that. So let's check this out.
I worked since I was 11. I used to be a newspaper girl. I used to deliver newspapers. I was married for almost 35 years before my husband passed away. I live in a fixed income. I have myself and my 3 grandkids. My granddaughter living with me also. There's a newborn baby in the house. All the kids are under 6. I'm a very nice person, and I'm always helping people. with the little bit I got, I share. This month has been very bad for me, very, very bad. I did a lot of crying, but I got my rent paid, which is good. Not my clothes washed, but that's okay. I can always wash my hands. Places like this, they help us. At least we're eating and we're surviving in this world. Times are hard, and we just get by. What are we going to do? I'm just grateful that places like the church and where we can get food, it's good.
Wow, so Carmen's story there, just absolutely heartbreaking, but not specific to her. We're seeing that all over our communities.
Yeah. And the shocking thing that a lot of people don't realize, we have more grandparents raising grandchildren in our state. So what's scary about that is when you have children who are experiencing hunger and you have seniors who are experiencing hunger, between those two sets, that's roughly 60% of people who are using the Charitable Food Assistance Network. So two very vulnerable populations experiencing hunger together. And these are often folks who have, worked their whole life and done all the right things and did not expect to find themselves in that situation.
Wow. And despite the need, and we know it's great, workers at the food bank say at this point supply is critical.
It is. We've been very lucky. We've been focusing a lot on nutritious food like produce, and we've had a regular supply and partnerships with the Tucson Food Bank and relationships they have in their community to source produce to get it here. But one thing that we're really struggling with are non-perishable donations. So we're asking the community, to get involved and bring us non-perishable donations if they can. And a big shout out to the letter carriers. They hosted their food drive yesterday. We're still tallying pounds from what that will look like, and that will make a significant difference in the food supply that we have for the rest of the calendar year. But again, this is an issue that's not something that we solve just one time. We're going to need continuous help over the next few months.
Right, and we sent our reporter Megan Abundis to check out this issue that the Roadrunner Food Bank is seeing this past week, so they need some help. Let's take a look.
We're asking people to give, to donate food.
This warehouse may look full, but it's actually only a 30-day food supply. That's because Roadrunner Food Bank feeds more than 70,000 hungry people a week. That's like feeding the entire city of Santa Fe each week. A tough task to do.
We're at an all-time low for non-perishable food donations. We have access to produce right now, but non-perishable food donations are very critical for us right now.
They say this trend started in the spring.
We really thought that this was just a sort of a kind of a short couple-month trend, but we've really kind of said, no, this is a more serious issue.
And they're guessing the trickle-down is widespread.
We believe that some of our food that comes our way is being impacted by some of the new trade tariffs that are happening nationally.
And all of these empty shelves where non-perishables should sit have local food pantries worried.
There's just a lot of pressure to feed a lot of mouths right around the holidays.
They say the lines get longer.
It's extremely essential that our shelves are full, especially in the coming weeks and months through the holidays.
You may not realize that they're experiencing hunger because there's a lot of shame attached to it still, but they are truly in need and truly struggling to put meals on the food on a daily basis.
Wow, I mean, just seeing the empty shelves there and seeing those lines just getting longer, I mean, it really paints a really sad picture.
It does. Hunger is a serious issue in our state, most definitely, and it's a year-round issue. And we are tremendously grateful for the support that the community, invests in our work, whether they're giving time, funds, or talent, or even food. And all of that makes a difference. But it's an issue that we pay attention to 365 days a year, not just during the holidays.
Right. And one way that you helped out the hungry people here in our community this weekend was with the help of postal workers.
Yes.
Now, they worked extra hard yesterday picking up your food donations during the 27th annual Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. And our Emily J6 took a look behind the scenes to see how an operation like this all comes together.
It's the largest single-day food drive in the country.
I guess our goal this time is 200,000 pounds locally here in the Albuquerque area.
50 letter carriers on 50 different routes in Albuquerque alone participated in this year's Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. But it's not easy work for the mailmen and women who haul in all these non-perishable items.
That's right. Yeah, it adds to their work for the day, but Saturdays are one of our lower volume days, so that's a nice thing for them, so they have time to get the food, and it's their way of giving back to the community.
In addition to carrying and delivering your mail, they were also collecting, picking up these blue bags full of food for needy families.
People use those all over the place, and some of them add to it and put boxes and so forth. But yeah, most people will put out a couple of bags.
And your items really do add up.
The donations will eventually make their way here to the Roadrunner Food Bank, where volunteers will spend the next several months sorting them all out.
From here, the items will be sent to food banks throughout the state, getting them through the next month or so.
Different types of food. We get a lot of canned goods, which is good. Those go a long way. Rice.
And with New Mexico ranked as one of the hungriest states in the nation, Roadrunner officials say food drives like this help keep their shelves stocked at a time when they constantly need to be replenished.
Well, keep in mind as kids get out of school for the summer months, we really see an increase in hunger during the summer months. And that's often because low-income families who have been able to qualify for free and reduced lunch and breakfast programs at school, when they're not in school, they don't have access to those additional meals.
All right, so more than 170,000 pounds of food was collected at last year's Stamp Out Hunger food drive. Now, we haven't really tallied up how much was collected yesterday, but how far does that stretch, that 170,000?
It depends. It'll take us a little time to get it sorted, and that's where helping hands of volunteers come into play, because once the food drive is over, there's still food that we need to process and make sure we're following correct food safety guidelines. So really the whole process, it might take us a few additional weeks to get that food into our inventory system where our partners downstream of us have access to it. So volunteers are key in helping do that. So there's no easy answer. Our hope is that will last anywhere from 1 to 3 months. But again, it depends on sort of what items that they're needing, what items they're ordering from us through our online system.
Any goals or predictions for this year's?
Yeah, hard to know. It's hard to know. I mean, we've been very fortunate in terms of the pounds we've been distributing to increase those pounds and reflecting back on the meal gap. When you're looking at the meal gap in our state, basically every meal we're providing, we probably need to be providing 2 more. Well, we can't triple our distribution in the course of 1 year, so we're slowly growing our pounds, but a lot of that is nutritious food, like things like produce and things like that. The non-perishable food is really what we're struggling with.
Right. Okay, so we have about a minute left in this segment, less than. What's next in terms of like any campaigns or?
There's lots of great things that are going on that people can get involved in, and they don't have to go very far to do that to help solve hunger. So right now, for example, Smith's is hosting a Roundup at the Register campaign where customers can basically, be asked to round up to the next $1 or $2 or $5 or however much they'd like to give at the register. And it's Smith's way of giving back and investing in food banks across the state. And so that campaign will go through the end of January, and we're really honored that Smith's has taken that charge up and continued to support us during a time of great need.
All right, great. So we're going to be right back with Sonia to talk more about the hunger issue here in our state. Stick around. And welcome back to Eye on New Mexico. This morning I'm joined by Sonia Warwick from Roadrunner Food Bank. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
And we're continuing our discussion on hunger here in New Mexico. We've seen the numbers and the headlines, one of the worst places in the country for childhood hunger. Right now we're seeing that non-perishable goods at the food bank is at an all-time low right now. What is the driving force behind these problems?
We wish we knew the answer, at least to, the non-perishable food situation. We believe, we're not 100% sure that, national and international trade tariffs are having some impact on the ability for us to source food in unique ways that we've typically done. And so we're looking at new ways that we can work with fellow food banks that are part of the Feeding America network and in other parts of the country that can help us access food. And so that's one of the solutions that we're working on right now. We don't have all the answers to that at this point in time. But in terms of childhood hunger, hunger and poverty are an economic development issue. Jobs are important in our community. Jobs that pay enough of a salary that people can live off of is definitely something that people who are low income struggle with. And when we can ensure that folks have access to those kinds of jobs, then that means it can also change their trends in terms of being able to provide enough food on the table and other things. If you're experiencing hunger, that's one of many issues that people in poverty and who are low income are experiencing.
I know we spotlighted a woman in our last segment named Carmen who was telling us about some of the challenges that she's facing, and she has to go without one thing over the other just so she can live. But we're seeing this happen all across our states.
It is, and she's making a tough choice, probably, especially as being a senior. Seniors tend to not be as healthy as the rest of the younger parts of the population, and tend to have more medication needs, for example. And often seniors are making tough decisions between food on the table and medicine, for example. One of the cool programs we operate at the food bank is our Healthy Food Center, and that's really kind of a unique partnership where we're working with the healthcare industry to screen for hunger at a clinic, and then that patient actually gets a referral to come to the food bank and access healthy food once a week. And the cool thing about that program is it's allowing us to address health and hunger issues at the same time. So if a patient is experiencing diabetes or hypertension or something like that, they're getting access through this particular through this particular food pantry at the food bank to nutritious food that actually helps reduce some of those healthcare indicators that we're concerned about across the country. And we've actually seen complete turnarounds.
Yes, some people are now seeing food should be used as medicine, and we're seeing these types of results.
Exactly. In fact, we met a woman by the name of Marlene a couple weeks ago, and she was a diabetic, and she's actually no longer diabetic because she has access to nutritious food, and she's been low income, so she qualified for the program, and now she's diabetic free because she's eating nutritious food.
Wow, that's amazing. So all of this is a huge undertaking, and that's why organizations like Roadrunner Food Bank are always working hard, and they serve tens of thousands of New Mexicans, and really it's not cheap to do that. It's really expensive, and that's where the Super Bowl comes in, and that's not a big game we're talking about. Take a look at this story here.
As a food bank employee, we consider this the only Super Bowl.
Not a football in sight at this Super Bowl. Instead, there are tables upon tables of soups, desserts, all laid out in the Roadrunner Food Bank warehouse.
We have about 40 restaurants participating.
Around 1,000 people showed up to get a taste at this annual fundraiser for the Roadrunner Food Bank. The soup selection was big.
In our soup, we did a corn chowder, and it's served with herb oil, a little bit of cotija cheese, a little bit of creme fraiche, and corn nuts, believe it or not.
Yeah, it was a plantain fennel soup.
And both critics and attendees got to vote for their favorites. Once the votes were in, the awards were handed out fast. Some chefs won big, like 99 Degrees Seafood Kitchen executive chef Jay Huafano. Our interview with him was even interrupted by the announcement of a second win for him. The Super Bowl is one of the largest fundraisers for Roadrunner Food Bank every year, allowing it to continue to feed the more than 360,000 New Mexicans who struggle with hunger every year. And People's Choice winner, Chef Ernesto Duran at the Hyatt Regency Tamaya, says he's happy to do his part.
We've been involved in this great charity for many years, many different restaurants, and it's fun to come out and see a bunch of our friends and do a bunch of cool soups.
Well, that looks like a great time.
Oh my gosh, that event it's an absolute fun time, that event.
Yeah, and this year's annual Super Bowl will take place on Saturday, January 26th?
The last Saturday of January is when it's taking place. Tickets are not quite on sale yet. We hope to get those up and operational at the beginning of December in terms of our ticketing system, so people can buy tickets. They're going to probably be $40 at the early bird price, $50 kind of once you get into January and closer to the event. And, families come to this event, so you can bring your kids too.
Right. So what's being planned for this next year's event?
Well, we're anticipating that 40 restaurants will sign up at least. And, of course, they bring soup and desserts of all kinds. You can imagine we've got some creative chefs producing some creative menu items. In fact, some of the restaurants have told us that they use this event to, try out new things that they want to put on their menu for, on a permanent basis. And so we're really excited about it. If you're a restaurant out there and you'd like to participate, you can call me or Andrea Nash at Roadrunner Food Bank. We'd be glad to get you registered to participate.
And it seems like it's a really great way to give back to our community. I mean, by both the restaurants and just people going out there to have a good time.
Yes, most definitely. It's a lot of fun. There's live entertainment. There's an opportunity to win prizes through a raffle that we host as a fundraising activity during that day. And the most important thing to remember is this is a fundraising event. This is an activity that will help us engage our community and also raise funds to help us right as we're kicking off the new year.
You know, so during this segment, we've been talking about so many ways that people can give back and get involved. We talked about the Stamp Out Hunger food drive that happened yesterday. We talked about the roundup at Smith's and checking out the Super Bowl here. But what if someone else is at home right now watching and thinking, well, I would like to do something, but I just don't know what. What opportunities are available out there?
Well, most definitely you can come and volunteer at any point in time. Like I said, we need volunteers year round. We're handling anywhere from about upwards of 33 million pounds in terms of distribution a year, and volunteers are core in being able to get food out to communities across the state. So we have volunteer opportunities Monday through Saturday, really, and individuals can come, families with their children can come, companies can come. Like I said, it all really adds up if you want to give back in that way. And then also some of the other things that people can do are engage people that they know. They can create an online fund drive, me. And really what that is we set up a giving page for your group, and you can invite folks to contribute to your cause, if you will, that you've started on our behalf. And we've got several companies who are doing this right now. Fortis Construction, for example, they have a goal of raising $3,000 in the next few weeks on our behalf from their customers and their employees and whatnot. So that's just kind of a quick example of how people can give back and get involved.
When we hear the number amounts for how much people want to raise, like what does $3,000 do for the food bank? How much food?
So it's got a multiplier effect that's significant in my opinion. You know, every dollar raised through Roadrunner Food Bank, we are able to distribute up to about 5 meals.
Wow.
And so we take your giving and stretch it because we're looking for food across the nation. We're working with Feeding America and other food banks to source food from all over the place to bring here. And so that's where your savings comes in, is because we're in a national partnership that allows us to bring food in at a much reduced rate.
Wow, so when people you know, see this and are wondering, well, I'm in the position where I need help, how can people get that?
It's really easy. You know, we're not working today because it's Sunday, but you can visit us online on our website. There's a Get Help tab. When you click on that tab, there's a white box where you can place your zip code. Put your zip code in there. It'll show you a list of all the partners we supply food to and any community across the state of New Mexico. And then we do operate a food referral line. So you can call our food referral line typically Monday through Friday. We'll be able to connect you with a staff person who can give you the same information as well. And we recommend you call each of those locations prior to going because there are some requirements, like you need to bring proof often that you live in that zip code, and then also showing that you know, how many people live in that household. So if you've got minors, you might need to bring a birth certificate or something like that.
Now, Sonia, when we think about hunger, we seem to think more about it during the holiday months, you know, giving back and things of that nature. But this is an issue that is a year-round issue.
It sure is, yeah. You know, hunger in the summer, it tends to be high, actually. We've got kiddos out of school, and a lot of those low-income families, you know, heavily rely on those free and reduced lunch and breakfast programs available to them at school. And when they're not in school, families who are low-income don't have the ability in terms of their budget to accommodate those extra meals during the summer months. So yes, we really feel that summer hunger is a true issue, and what we're doing right now in terms of, you know, collecting food and funds, that helps us well into those busy times like the summer.
Now, do we see an uptick in donations during the end of the year that helps you guys throughout the next year?
Most definitely, yes. Donations this time of year are critical, and they carry us well into the new year, and they're very important because, like I said, they help us plan ahead ahead for when we have leaner times in terms of food, for example, right now. But at the same time, we're also trying to be creative and finding, resources in terms of access to new sources for food.
Is this the trend we're seeing nationwide, the number of items being donated or add to food banks?
I don't know. We're doing a little bit of analysis on that right now, and we're talking with Feeding America so we can say, like, hey, are other food banks experiencing this? What are they doing that, maybe that we can take into practice here locally? So we don't know the answer to that yet, but over the next course of the next 2 to 3 months, we'll have some better solutions and some better answers to what that is.
Well, it seems like you guys are working nonstop.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of stuff going on all the time.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that people should know about in the next year? Anything new happening?
There are some cool things coming down the pipe. We're looking at doing a program called Service Insights, which you'll hear more about later down the line, but it'll allow us to look at data in a new way so that we can change our programming or even just tweak our programming that might, benefit low-income families. So that's a new project. We really don't know yet what that's going to look like because we're really just sort of in the beginning planning phases of it. But it will be very cool. It will give us a truer look at what hunger looks like in our state, even at the county and the local level.
When it comes to hunger and someone facing food insecurities, you might be working with someone or going to school with someone, and you might never know, right?
Yeah, there's still a lot of shame attached to the issue of hunger. To stand in a food line and ask for help, that's no easy thing to do. As people, that's not something we're normally very good at, is asking for help, right? And so, I always find that people who are in food lines are very brave. Because to be able to swallow your pride and stand in a food line and ask for help is really tough.
Right. So as we wind down the last couple of minutes, any last messages you want to share with our viewers?
Just really to thank the community. We're your community food bank. We serve the whole state of New Mexico through a whole statewide network of food pantry partners and soup kitchens and school partners and many, many others, including regional food banks across the state, like in Santa Fe at the Food Depot, and in eastern New Mexico, the food bank that serves the Clovis area and the surrounding counties, and 2 others also. So through that statewide network, you're having a tremendous impact, and we thank you as food banks because there is no way we can carry out our mission and help people experiencing hunger across the state without your support. So thank you, New Mexico. We greatly appreciate your support.
Doing really important and much needed work in our community. Thank you guys very much. Well, that's going to do it for us for this episode of I New Mexico. We'll be back next weekend with another episode. Thanks for watching.